you going, all right? I said, how you going, all right? That's it, nice and loud. Hey, my name's Pete, and before I'd like to kick it off, it wouldn't be right if I didn't actually introduce my beautiful wife. This is my love of my life. 28 years, and I'm lucky enough to roll over every morning and gaze upon her glory. She makes my heart flutter. Isn't that good? Straight out. Did I get some brownie points there? Yeah. Straight out. Tea and toast tomorrow morning. Don't forget that woman. They reckon if you plant a seed, you get a harvest. Hey, is there a doctor in the house? Because I think there's something wrong with me. Can someone give me prognosis? Well, I think you got the flu. I got the flu. So if I sound a bit like Kermit the Frog, you're going to have to cut me some cheese. In other words, some slack. Is that cool? Come on, nice and loud. Rightio. So I run Australia's strictest and largest rehab. And what I mean by Australia's strictest and largest rehab, I'm the biggest prick you'll ever met in your life. Actually, most people think in their brains what I say with my mouth. And I've actually got to go everywhere twice the second time to apologise for the first time. And the good thing about today is I know that you're going to invite me back next time because I'm going to have to apologise for this time. And you think I'm joking? Wait and see. Rightio, my background, I spent 26 years myself, and they'll give me half an hour and then you're going to pull me apart with some questions apparently. But I spent 26 years of my life in prisons and institutions, sticking picks in my arms, selling drugs, breaking houses, stealing cars, mugging people and doing a lot of bad stuff. I actually got put in a prison as a 9-year-old little boy, not for committing a crime, but my mum actually, my dad ran off with a babysitter. My mum was an alcoholic, couldn't handle looking after 5 kids, and she kept putting in rehabs, and every time she get out, she'd get back to a bloke that used to beat the living crap out of her. I used to walk out in the lounge at 3 o'clock in the morning and see mum sitting on the end of the lounge. After all the yelling had stopped, her face would be covered in blood. She couldn't see out of her eyes. Her false teeth would be snapped in half, and she'd be sitting there crying, trying to glue her teeth back together. I was a little kid at the age of 8 that used to have to get bread and milk out of the cupboard, pick off the mould, put powdered milk on top, and have that for breakfast before I went to school. I was the sort of kid at school that they used to pick on and make fun of. Me, I've actually went to 16 different schools, only made grade 6, and I can't even read runner writing. And one of the words that really pissed me off is the word there, E-R-E-I-R-E, and I've actually just found out there's one with an apostrophe R-E. Now, I don't think that's funny, because I was in the school a couple of weeks ago, and I wrote this word on the board, and this 6-year-old picked on me and says, hey, you're supposed to have an apostrophe R-E. Wasn't that funny? But I got put in a prison. I never committed a crime. I never broke anything. I never hurt anybody. But between the ages of 7 and 9, my whole life fell apart. I watched my mum actually love alcohol more than love her children. I seen my mum in sexual positions that little kids shouldn't actually see. I actually got sexually abused by an 8-year-old. When I was an 8-year-old boy, I woke up with my pants down to my ankles, and I was at a mate's house tonight, and his uncle, he actually molested me. I couldn't tell my mum because she loved the drink more than me. I couldn't tell Dad because he took off when I was 7. Now, my program, my life was a bit skew-iffy. Young kids shouldn't have to go through what it is that I went through, and they kept putting me in foster families and children's homes, and so I kept running away. Eventually they got sick of me running away. They caught me sleeping as a 9-year-old boy at Midland Gate Shopping Centre in a Good Samaritan bin, and they took me back up to Parkerville Children's Home, and I remember walking in the children's home, and when I walked in the children's home, and my dad was sitting there and the counsellor was sitting there, and then the chick says to me, she says, hey, you obviously don't want to be here, mate. You're wasting our time and our resources. We're going to give you a choice. Now, you can go and stay with your dad or you can go to Longmore. I'm a 9-year-old little boy. All I wanted was my mum and my dad. All I wanted was to be a geek. I wanted to be normal like you, mob. You're all geeks, bunch of geeks. Yeah, you're a geek. Benny boy over here, he's a geek. He actually projects an image that I perceive. You're actually better than me. I'm not good enough. I'm a weed. I don't belong. Nobody loves me anymore. I'm better off dead. That's what I thought I was growing up. I was carrying guilt, shame, unforgiveness. I was so confused as a little boy. All I wanted was to be like them other kids. Everyone used to pick on me and make fun of me at school. I would have given anything as a little boy to run up the corridor and jump into bed with mum and dad for a cuddle. I've never been on a family holiday. I've never done nothing normal. My life was a blooming shocker. So I walk in this room and this chick says to me, "You're wasting our time and our resources. You obviously don't want to be here anymore. We're going to give you a choice. You can either go and stay with your dad or you can go to Longmore." I looked at this man, and as soon as I looked at him, I heard this voice: "He doesn't love you anymore." My brain thought about it, and it checked with what I believed to be true in my heart. And I remember saying, yeah, that's right. He doesn't love me anymore. Because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have got sexually molested. Mum would have got beaten, wouldn't have beaten up. My whole brothers and sisters wouldn't have been dispersed. My life would have been completely different, and I would have been a geek. Yeah, he doesn't love me anymore. And when I said that, yeah, he doesn't love me anymore, I felt something go from my head and into my heart, and overwhelming anger come upon me, and I hated that man's guts. And then I heard this other voice say, "Hey, Pete, you're making a mistake." But then I heard another voice say, nah, stuff him. I'm going to make him pay for what he's done to me. So they stuck me in a prison. They took me to a place called Longmore, 1 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning. I was a 9-year-old boy. I remember they took me into the Blution block. I've never been so petrified in all my life. Now, I've been to 16 different schools, only made grade 6 country in Runnerite. They take me to a prison. They strip me naked. They put nick cream on my hair, crab cream on my nuts. Just gave me 6 comic books. And then they marched me down a row of prison cells. My heart was going 200 miles an hour. I'm a little 9-year-old boy. All I want is my mum and my dad. They marched me down the row of prison cells, 12 to the left, 12 to the right. And they get me halfway down. They open the door and they push me in the cell, bolt the door shut. They slid back the little slot, make sure I was in there. And then they slid it. I can hear them walking up the corridor with the keys jangling. I jumped on that bed as a 9-year-old little boy, and I grabbed a hold of my pillow and I started cuddling it, rocking side to side, crying, saying, "Please, please, please, if you let me out now, I promise I'll behave. I promise I'll be a good boy. I promise I won't run away again." I'm a 48-year-old man. We've been married for 28 years. I sleep every night with a cuddle and my pillow between me and my wife. I remember curling up in that prison cell as a 9-year-old little boy saying, "All I want is my mum and my dad. I promise you if you let me out now, I'll be a good boy. I won't run away again." But no one opened the door. I heard a voice in my prison cell, and they said, "Peter, from this day forward, you're going to have to look after yourself." So I made a vow as a 9-year-old little boy about this big, from this day forward, I'm going to look after me. Now, I spent 3 months in that prison cell in Longmore, and I met lots of other kids in that prison. And the kids that I met in the prison, they all had stories like mine, that mum loved the alcohol more than she loved her children, or mum had run off with another man and left dad with the kids, or dad would run off with a babysitter, or dad was never there for him, he used to beat him, or they were raped or they were molested. But all these kids had stories exactly like mine, and it was the first time in 2 years that I actually felt I had a place where I fitted. I found my identity. But those who I found my identity around were doing what I didn't want to do. When I got out of there, I got put in another children's home, and I started breaking houses, stealing cars, sticking pics in my arms, and that became my cycle of the beginning of 26 years of prisons and institutions. I spent my whole childhood from the age of 9 up until 18 locked up. I'd be out for a day, back in for 6 months, out for a month, back in for 11 months. I spent 7 years in Longmore, 2 years in Riverbank. I graduated to prison in 1991. My jail number is IO 912410. I've spent time in every prison in Western Australia. I've done lots of things over my life I'm ashamed of, but there's 3 specific times over the course of my life that if somebody had to reach down and open that prison cell, if somebody had actually given me an opportunity at a particular point in time, I know that my life would have changed. I found that drugs, I found that methamphetamines, I found that opiates, I found that cannabis, I found that alcohol, I found that antidepressants and all these other prescription drugs that one day that you're going to be supplying people, I found that they fixed my problem, but the problem is they didn't actually fix my problem, they created more of a problem. I have an addictive nature. I have a rehab with 140 men, 140 men in my rehab. We are the largest self-funded rehab in the whole of Australia. I am the strictest rehab in Australia. In 2000, I got out after doing 1 year of a 5-year term. And after that 1 year of the 5-year term, I thought to myself, I've been sticking pics in my arms, selling drugs and guns, I might as well start doing it for a living. And so what I did, I done it for a living. Within 3 months, I used to sell an average of 2.5 kilos of methamphetamines a day. That's an average of probably 65 ounces of meth a day. The purest stuff you get your hands on. I was selling 9 mils, 44s, Glock C4. I was really, really big, really, really fast, but I really hated who I was. And the turning point for me is my wife. She's a geek, and she is actually, or was a geek, but she comes from Wongan Hills. She was head girl, ducks at school, farmer's daughter, boarding school, year 12, done the best of everything. She was like, and I think the worst thing she ever done, she got dared by her friends in year 12, sneak in the boys' dorm. Oh, isn't that bad? She snuck in the boys' dorm. That's the worst thing she ever done. And then she moved to Perth to study, like probably some of you mob. And then I was at the Kelmscott sitting at the pub, far end of the pub, and she walks into the pub, and I'm at the far end of the bar, and she walked in with a friend, and she seen me from the far end, and she just fell in this puddle, boy. She just melted at the gazed upon my glory. It's true. I can't lie. Was it true? It's true, see? Now you get some brownie points, you're backing me up. See, we work in partnership, me and my woman. I actually call her my woman, she is my woman. I love my wife. My wife is beautiful, special, gorgeous, and she makes my heart flutter, and I tell her every single day of my life, I'm honoured and privileged to be with my wife. I've actually slept with hundreds of prostitutes behind my wife. I've done a lot of bad things a man shouldn't done. My wife actually had a criminal record because of me, firearms, intent to sell and supply. I put her through things that you'd see in science fiction movies. I woke up one day after 16 days no sleep. I used to stick steroids in my butt and used to do a lot of bad stuff. Carried a little 22 and think I was a gangster when all I was just a little pawn. But I woke up one morning, I'd sold a box of dynamite the day before. I give this bloke a stick of jelly and a detonator. And it turned out he was a copper or a police informant. And I sold the dynamite that day, and next day I wake up, it's like, you know what I mean? Helicopter comes flying over the roof, TRG comes through, bulletproof vest, shotguns, and they had me down on the floor, and they had a knee in the back of my head. And I'm looking up the corridor, and they had a short-nosed shotgun in my head. And I see my wife laying on the floor with my 15-month-old son, Ryan. And she was half naked, she had a shotgun to her head. For me, that was a turning point. For me, that was really bad. But just to see the look on her face and just see the atmosphere, I looked at my two boys. I had two sons, Peter and Ryan. I just knew that I needed a change. And for me, that was a turning point where my life started to change. I'd had what they call a divine encounter. And when I mean divine encounter, I actually got nuked. Now, I draw this circle, just so you're wondering, no, it's not my belly. Even though I am a bit chunky, every time they take a picture, they tell me to suck my guts in. I don't think that's very nice. What do you reckon? No one comments. Okay. What do you reckon of my picture? Now, you'll see if I actually have to spell a word, I'm going to go 3 words, 3 letters of the word. I'm going to say the word, but I'm not going to finish the word because I'm not going to give you an opportunity to correct me like that 6-year-old did. So we're just going to stop it. If I say direction, we're just going to put D-I-R and we'll leave it at that. But you know what I'm saying. Is that cool? So you're going to see me not finish no word. I'm going to draw myself a little picture. I've got a lot of slang. If you go to China, they speak Chinese. If you go to India, they speak Indian. I just got back from Mongolia actually last week. They actually speak Mongolian. If you come from where I've come from, ducks, nuts, bees, knees, cooter, filthy, off the charts, motherless. Man, that's the bomb. So I got a lot of street slang. Old cheese. I love old cheese. Old cheese means your mum. Some are Kraft, some are Swift, some are cheddar. Some, if you're lucky enough, they're actually Margaret River smoked cheese wrapped in black plastic. Oh my God, they're good with a hot pepperoni and salami mixed in dip. So excuse my slang, I speak slightly differently. I'm not your normal vessel. The good thing about myself is what I like about myself is I really don't give two flying floppers. Well, my nose is a bit cronky. We'll be able to fix him up a bit. There we are. Sorry about the sniffle if it comes through the microphone and runs down your ear. I'm just trying to share it with you without actually catching it. I don't want to be greedy, you know. The good thing about me is I really don't care what any of you think of me in any way, shape or form. Not even slightly. I actually am the biggest prick you'll ever met in your life. But you've got to be when you've got what I've got in my house. I've got 140 men from 140 different backgrounds. I don't have one program. I have 140 programs because each person is programmed differently. My speaking stops at what time? 9:30. So I have 140 programs, and they've all been programmed differently. In the room here, there's probably 150, 200 people. We have 200 programs. The second you pop out your old cheese's tummy, your old cheese, we know is your... Come on. Louder. Now we're getting it. You're supposed to say Margaret River. No, Margaret River's good. The second you popped out your old cheese's tummy, you begin to be programmed. And how you're programmed is by the way that your mum is your mum and your dad is your dad. You're actually being programmed. You're being programmed by the way that they model fatherhood and motherhood and home, by the way that I actually treat my wife, by the words that I speak, by the way that I am in public, by actually the way that I treat her in the home. My kids are actually watching on as I love and adore my wife and spend time with her. You're also being programmed now. I'm actually programming you, but you have a choice to listen to what I say or ignore what I say. You're also being programmed by the schools that you go to, the way the teacher teaches. You're also being programmed by the kids you hang around at the school. Who you hang around is who you become. You're also being programmed that as you live life, all of us, we face circumstances that we do and that we don't create. And when you face those circumstances, you implement patterns of behaviour, ways to communicate, ways to express how you feel, and if it works for you, it becomes part of who you are. Would you agree? Can't hear? Yes. That's it, I want interaction. Interaction's cool. So we're all being programmed. Me, personally, I don't reckon you're just a fart in the wind. Can anyone find that for me, please? No? You can tell I'm a bit different than your average speaker. Would you agree? Can't hear you. Yes. I don't believe you're a fart in the wind. But depending on a person's program is depending on what you call this. Me, we're just going to call it a light and a dark. I just want to tell you, I spent 26 years of my life trapped in a world that I didn't want to be in. I spent 26 years in prison. Even when I wasn't in prison, I was still in prison. I would get out of prison, but I was still in prison because everybody that I felt comfortable around was doing what I didn't want to do. I'd hang around the geeks, the normal people. I felt like I was a weed, that I didn't belong, so I went back to where I felt comfortable, but the problem is they were sticking picks in their arms. They were smoking cones. They were getting blind drunk. They were breaking into houses and doing things that I didn't want to do anymore, but I didn't know how to change. The turning point for me was seeing my wife laying there half naked with a shotgun to her head. And from that point on, after that divine encounter, my life actually changed. Now, depending on your program is depending on what you would call this here. There's a light and there's a dark, there's a good and there's a bad. Some people call the light, some people call it a higher power, some people actually call it God. You call it whatever you want, we're just going to call it the light. Is that okay? Yes. Okay, light, love, truth, honesty, integrity, transparency, accountability. You're beautiful, you're accepted, you're not a mistake, you do belong, you are good enough, you're valued, life, the fullness of everything that is beautifully, flawlessly, perfectly pure, 100% the source of goodness. Pick up rubbish off the ground, don't leave it. Dark, unforgiveness. We better change the colour, otherwise we'll mix them up. Dark is unforgiveness, bitterness, resentment, anger, hostility, hatred. You're a weed, you're useless, you're fat, you're ugly, you're no good. Sexual masturbation, addiction, division, gossip, slander, death. There's a light and there's a dark. Some people call the D, some people call the D a devil, some people call the D an absolute prickle. We're just going to call it light and dark. Is that cool? Yes. And we're all on the same page, doesn't matter what you believe. But what happens is these dudes, the second you popped out your old cheese's tummy, what they want to do is they actually want to get inside you to operate through you. But they can't just get inside you. I've learned more in the last 7 years running a Shalom House, which is the men's rehabilitation centre or discipleship house, than I have in my whole life. I feel like I'm in a blooming science fiction movie. I only made grade 6. I can't read run or rhyme, but I tell you what, my God, have I learned about people. I'm a multi-skilled fella, and what I mean by multi-skilled, I actually hold every trade there is. I am actually a boilermaker. I hold every ticket for nearly every piece of machinery. I'm a tiler, painter, carpenter, tree lopper. I can do anything. But the way that my brain works is by looking. I just look at something, begin with the end in mind, and my brain works out the process to get to the outcome. Now, when you apply that way of thinking and learning to rehabilitation or discipleship, the end in mind for me is I want to be shalom. Now, the word shalom, if you Google it, it means love in its purest form, kindness in its purest form, truth in its purest form, honesty, integrity, transparency, accountability. It means the fullness of family. It means the fullness of everything that is beautifully, flawlessly good. I want to love myself. I want to have a good self-esteem. I want to be proud of who I am and what I do in life. I want to be proud of my children. I want to go on family holidays. I want to, as a dad, still run up the corridor and jump into bed with my sons and give them a cuddle. I want to make sure that from the day that I live to the day that I die, that I make a difference in the lives of those around me in a positive way. That to me is shalom. That's why I called shalom, shalom. And what I do is I disciple, rehabilitate my men to be the fullness of the shalom. But I have 140 programs and 140 people who learn 140 different ways. And now, what's inside you operates through you. Your heart, believe it or not, is your hard drive. Whether you know it or not, you're going into medical school. You're going to pull apart hearts and livers and organs and prescribe people flu, colds, broken ankles, stitch bones and all that sort of jazz. But you want to really work on a person, you work on their heart. Out of the heart flow the issues of life. Out of the heart flow the consequences of life. Out of the heart, the mouth speaks. You're supposed to actually guard the heart because it's the wellspring of life. The heart is also deceitful beyond all measure. The heart is your computer, the storage device, the hard drive that actually stores your program as you live life. And as you live life, you draw upon what's in your heart to make the decisions that you need to make to respond to the circumstances you face as you live life. I've learned that in the last 7 years. I feel like I'm in a science fiction movie. You can see somebody who's rude, self-centered, arrogant, disrespectful. You can see somebody full of anger and bitterness and resentment. But behind that person, behind that anger, behind that resentment, behind that bitterness, behind that unforgiveness is a person who has lived a life, who has experienced certain traumas in their life that has caused them to be who they are today. They don't want to be who they are, but they don't know how to change. They're in prison. That was me. You can take the prisoner out of prison, but then you got to get the prison out of the prisoner. I found a way to get the prison out of the prisoner. I have found a way to literally get the prison out of the prisoner. Oh my God, I feel like I'm in a science fiction movie. How do I communicate what I know to be true without pushing what I believe on someone's throat? Because how you learn is different than how you learn is different than how you learn. Sometimes I've got to come from the north, sometimes I've got to come from the south, the east, the west. Now and again, I've got to cut a hole in the blooming roof and lower the truth through the roof. Oh my God, some people, it just does your head in. Who knows what I mean? Put your hand up. People do my head in. I do my own head in. I used to hate myself. I really used to hate myself. I hated everything about me, the way that I smelt, the way that I was to my wife, the way that I was bringing up my children. I hated myself. But now I actually really like me. I like who I've become. I don't have any friends in any way, shape or form. I don't want them because I found with distance creates authority. I can't be what you want me to be. I've got to be actually what you need me to be. I have people from all different backgrounds and patch members. I've had shotguns shot over my house. I have 32 cameras on my house for my own protection. I have a bit of a prickle of a job. But what we're doing at Shalom House, we're actually working. We're working at restoring not just the lives of men, but entire families in our community. There is no program like ours anywhere in Australia that is 100% self-funded, even though we have a registered not-for-profit charity status, tax deductibility, a DGR status, charitable collections license. We don't even use any of that. I teach my men, hey, dig a hole, paint a pole, work for a living. As you make right choices, your life will change. Well, we don't need nothing from nobody. How they learn is through the consequence of their choices. Now, I didn't realize myself, I had anger, I had bitterness, I had unforgiveness, I had resentment, and it was all inside of me. When that lady says, when that bloke that molested me when I woke up when I was 8 years old, I woke up with my pants down my ankles, and this man, my friend, his uncle was doing some stuff to me. I was petrified. I laid there frozen. When my dad ran off with a babysitter and deserted mum and left her with 5 kids, and I didn't see him for 2 years. Between that 2 years, between the age of 7 and 9, a lot of bad stuff happened. Our whole family was destroyed. I had fear, I had anxiety, I had resentment, I had bitterness. I remember when I was 11, I tried to stay with my grandma, where my brothers and sisters were staying. I've never played sports in my life, and they actually enrolled me in footy, and I played the first game of footy, and I've never played any sports. And I got out there in my togs, and I grabbed this football, and it was raining, it was wet. I'm an 11-year-old kid. I picked the ball up and I started running, and they put the ball down to wipe the mud off my hands, and some other dude grabbed the ball and they kicked the goal. And I remember as an 11-year-old kid looking around, and everybody was laughing at me. They were taking the piss out of me. I'm an 11-year-old little boy. I never felt so ashamed in all my life. But I felt something go from my head to my heart, and this voice that says, "You're useless." I remember I said, "Yeah, that's right." So I thought to myself, I'll prove them wrong. And I was determined in that game to get the ball. I gave it 100%. I got a hold of the ball, and when I grabbed that ball, my God, did I run. No one was going to get the ball off me. I wasn't going to hand pass it, wasn't going to give anybody. I'm getting a goal. I ran, I got the goal, went straight through the goals, straight in there, mate. And then everybody started laughing their head off. It turned out it was the wrong people's goal. We can laugh at it, but as an 11-year-old kid having 250 people sitting there laughing at you, you feel like you're useless, you're a weed. And I swore to myself, I'm never going to play sport again. My whole life, I was just full of guilt, anger, bitterness, resentment, shame, unforgiveness. I hated everybody. But I found that the chemicals and the substance that I stuck in my system, it covered up all my guilt. It covered up all my shame. It covered up all my anger. I'd go to a doctor, and all he would give me was prescription antidepressants. All he'd give me is lithium and Zyprexa and Olanzapine. He'd give me Seroquel to bomb me out. He would give me stuff to actually cover up the crap that was within inside me, and they weren't actually dealing with the issue. They just give me a coping mechanism for me to actually get by. But I got an addictive nature. When I have 2 pills and I don't get the kick, I look for the 3rd, then I look for the 4th, then I look for the 5th, and then I swap myself from an illegal addiction to a legal addiction. Now, in my house at Shalom, mate, I'm not a weed. I'm good enough. I'm loved. I'm special. I'm a champion. I can do anything. I do belong. But there was a process over the last 18 years or 17 years that I had to go through to actually clean the crap that was inside me. I've done a lot of things over the course of my life, as have a lot of you. I played mums and dads as a little boy with a girl when I was 7 or 8. I walked past the room and I seen my mum having sex with a bloke, and an image registered in my mind, and my sexuality was awakened early. I've done mums and dads and doctors and nurses. I've fondled another boy's genitals. I've done a lot of things that I should have done at the age of 9, 10, 11 growing up. But what was in me was operating through me. I've been sexually abused, dumped, made a ward of the state at the age of 11. I've been bushed, bashed and flogged and everything you can think of. But when I actually had that divine encounter in the age of 2001, I had to go through a process where my life had to begin to change. I believed in my heart so many lies about myself, and those lies became my truth. Sometimes it takes a person on the outside of your life to show the person on the inside what they can't see. It comes from the north, it comes from the south, comes from the east, comes from the west. And sometimes you've got to cut a hole in the roof and lower it down through the roof. Does it line up with the light? Does it line up with the dark? And how you find that is by having a conversation with the person. Talk about their childhood. Talk about what they've been through. Talk about their parenthood. Talk about their friends. Communication is the key to cleaning a person's heart. Talk about the deep issues in life. If you've done stuff in your past that you're ashamed of, you haven't told anybody, a lot of the thoughts that you get in your brain, they're not your thoughts, they're actually introduced thoughts. What's in you operates through you. What's in you influences how you speak. It influences how you think about yourself. It influences how you treat others around you. You are where you are because of the decisions you make. And as you live life, you will face circumstances that you do and you don't create. But no one can change you except for you. Thank you very much.
Peter, what a beautiful lesson in empathy, and thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Can we give Peter another huge round of applause as we take a seat for question time? So Peter, how can we help people who want to change, or do we have to wait for them to have their own divine encounters, even if their life is being destroyed in the process?
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I actually read a book called Tough Love. Everybody wants somebody to change, but why do you drink alcohol? Well, why do people drink alcohol? Because they enjoy it. Why do people use drugs? It's because they enjoy it. So I specialise in addiction. Unless a person comes to the point where they want to change, you can't actually help that person. Or you can give them what they need to do, but unless they make the decision they need to make, they are where they are because of the decision they made.
So you encourage people to try and understand the root cause of their problems and try and treat the problems, not just treat medically.
Yeah, so what I do is you can class addiction in 5 categories. You have an A, a B, a C and a D, which you can't actually help, and an E, but there's 3 types of E's. And I specialise in one type of E, and that one type of E is a person who has actually come to the end of themselves, who are out in the ocean drowning. They're at the bottom of the bottom of the bottom, and they'll do whatever it takes to change their life. They're the ones that we actually take into Shalom. And I also, what I do is I specialise in showing families how to bring a person to the point of wanting to make the decision to change because they want to make it. And often mums and dads, they don't want to hand their children over to the consequences of their choices because they're scared. But if this is a decision to change your life, this is your mum and your dad, your brother and sister, grandma and grandma, and best mate. Often what happens is one by one they wipe out, and over 20 years, and I can show you, instead of going through 20 years of addiction problems, I can show you how to calibrate them, get them all on the same page, speed it up and turn 20 years into 1 year. But it's about getting everybody on the same page, not doing what they want to do, but doing what they need to do.
So much of your story is defined by these key moments when people recognise change, and when things change. Can someone recognise these moments at the time, or is this often in the benefit of hindsight?
Explain that in English.
So when people experience like a potential moment for change, like you said your wife, you had moments of realisation with your wife where you wanted to change. You described a moment when she was lying in bed with like a gun next to her. Do you find that people recognise these moments as they're happening, or it's often in the power of hindsight that they recognise that that was the moment when they wanted to change who they were?
Well, a lot of people actually want to change, and a lot of people know what they're doing is wrong, and they ask for lots of people's opinions, but a lot of people ask other people until they find somebody that will tell them what they want to hear in order for them to keep doing what they want to do. There's a little voice on the inside of us that actually leads us in a right way. That's the light. That's that voice that walks past a piece of rubbish on the ground, and one voice says, pick it up. The other voice says, no, we'll stuff it, I didn't pick it and put it there. But that voice is the one that you can either be part of the solution or part of the problem. I personally say, pick it up. It's another example would be when you go to a shopping centre and you put all your food in the trolley, go out to the car park, put all your bags in the back of the car. One voice says, take the trolley back, and the other one says, we'll stuff it, they get paid for that. Again, it's that voice. And when I'm rude to you and disrespectful to you, and I walk away and I hear this voice go back and apologise, and I hear this other voice, no, stuff it, again, you can be either part of the solution or part of the problem. Does unforgiveness and bitterness and resentment line up with the L? Pardon? No, it lines up with the D. So there's 2 sources. Compare the decisions you make. Compare the substances you're using. Compare the fruits of your actions and of what you're living life to those 2 sources, and it'll change your life.
So do you have any personal beliefs, such as religious or otherwise, that affect how you try to rehabilitate your patients?
I'm not a religious man, but I'm a Christian. I really hate religion. And I personally reckon if the Church of God was like Hungry Jack's, she'd be chockers. When you go to Hungry Jack's, right, you know what you're getting. Whopper double beef with cheese, have mayonnaise, add ketchup. Me, I've got to be honest, I have extra pickle, extra mayonnaise and DP cut in half. But at least I know what I'm getting when I go to Hungry Jack's. But with churches, you wouldn't have a clue. I can't stand religion. Now, a religious, just for a picture of the Olympic emblem in the first circle, a religious person, they fish, chips and salt every second word. The fellow out the end, he got told off because he used a fish word for fish. The second word is chips and salt. You know them 3 words? The swear words, the F-bomb, the C-bomb, and the... A religious person, fish, chips and salt's every second word. They think, Stru, she's not. I wouldn't mind stoking the fire over there. And they go to church once a week. Has anybody here met one of them? Put your hand up nice and high. That's a religious person. Now, and they tell everybody to do what they don't do themselves. And then you've got another mob over here. And they're the Christianese mob. And they're the hallelujah, praise the Lord, glory this and glory that, Jesus this and Jesus that. And they actually set the standard of Christianity so high that when you come from where I come from, I might actually believe what they believe, but that's too hard for me. I'm fat, I've got short legs, I can't step that distance too quick. So I just don't go near it. And then down the bottom is the G, a general flying flopper. I might believe what they believe, but I'm a good person, I'm not hurting anybody. But the encounter that I had when I got nuked was a full-on one, and I went from a general flying flopper to a full-on Christianese God bother. If you don't want to hear about God, get out of my way. My God, I was a shocker. And if you were one of them and you come across my path back then, I'm sorry, please forgive me. But when I started Shalom, now I believe that God is really, really real. I don't believe that we're just a fart in the wind. I reckon we're like a cocoon, and then when we croak it, our spirit's going to go somewhere. The other going to go to the fullness of the hell or the fullness of the dark. You know what I mean? And I'm not a religious person. So I don't actually communicate my faith, but because you asked me the question, yes, I am a Christian. I believe that God is God, and I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. And I've drawn a circle, and that overlaps the Christianese mob. It overlaps the religious mob. It overlaps the general flying flopper mob. And I just put a T in there. Truth. And me, I just shut my mouth and I live my faith. What you see is what you get. I try to live honestly, with integrity, transparency, accountability, and I tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And you should see my faith in me by the way that I live my life, that my actions would speak louder than my words. I have no right in any way, shape or form pushing religion down people's throats. But every single one of you, no matter what you've been through in life, you are beautiful, man. For you ladies in this room, doesn't matter what shape, what size, no matter what you feel about yourself, the truth is you are beautiful. You are gorgeous, you are special, you are loved, you are valued. And even you as men, you are exactly the same. And for us as men, I think we have an obligation to actually live by example, to lead men and to set an example for women and our kids to follow. And so that's what I do. I live my faith. I'm a Christian man. I'm not a fart in the wind. I was created for a purpose. And when I die, I think there's more life than this.
So you use value, like Christian values of empathy and love to kind of work with your patients.
Honesty, integrity, transparency. It's not okay to gossip. If I say to you, I see that bloke over there, you know, he's the biggest prickle under the sun, he's fat, he's ugly, he actually sleeps with chickens, dogs and cats, and but don't tell anybody. And then all of a sudden you go look at him and think, oh, it's truth. All my words have just come out of your mouth, and you're looking at him and you're picturing him sleeping with a chicken. Gossip? No. Does gossip line up with a D or does it line up with the L? I don't know if it's in your medical book, but you should put it in there.
Okay, so we'll now just take some questions from the floor. We've got some roving mics, so they're the big squishy ones. If anyone wants to ask a question, just chuck your hand up and we'll throw it to you. Oh, there we go.
And while your mic's roving, you got to remember that I have a house and it's not just drug addicts. I have 140 men and they have anxiety, they have Asperger's, they have depression. I have a bloke in my house who's addicted to porn. He's 24, sex addict. He's never committed a crime, never used a drug. I have a bloke in my house who flies 747 aircraft, never uses any drugs or substances, but has anger issues. So we run a rehabilitation centre for a person with any life-controlling issue. Even if they think they're just useless or weed, they don't belong, they have massive depression, and we are a cold turkey detox facility.
Okay. Did we have the question?
Yeah, my question is just due to the fact that sometimes in our career, most of us are going to probably have to be that prickle or bad cop that you mentioned to help someone, and you mentioned distancing yourself to being able to be what they need them to be rather than what you want to be and be nice to them. How do you deal with that personally on your level, having to be the bad cop sometimes to someone to help them?
I'm always actually the bad cop. I do have myself a good cop, but I must be what people need me to be, not what they want me to be. I have men in my rehab that know more about pills and medicine and the symptoms of what they need to say to a doctor to get what it is they want. And often a pill is not the answer. And good cop, bad cop, when they come into my rehab, we are a cold turkey detox facility. In other words, we give them no medications at all in any way, shape or form. We actually take them off of every single medication, and we take the blanket off, because the blanket is what's covering all the stuff that's in the heart, and they're surrounded by 16 counsellors. I have 16 counsellors work for me, and a psych. But that's bad cop. Some of them, they've been on $2,000 a day on heroin. They don't sleep for 3 weeks. We might let them go for a week, and then we'll give them a sleeper maybe, depending on the person, on their... But again, we're guided by the counsel of the doctor or the psych. But I've got to actually hand a person over to the consequence of the choices, and I am the bad cop. But the bad cop is actually the good cop, because the decisions that I make as a bad cop actually causes good fruit in a person's life. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Not a problem. That's a big microphone you got there, bro.
I know, right?
It's pretty cool.
It sounds like life is fairly intensive on the inside of Shalom House. What's it like on the inside?
Intensive. So having 140 men, I have 140 men, and that we move our 140 men around every 3 weeks. And so we have 2 to a room, and we shuffle them like a pack of cards. So we find fellas who don't like each other, who hate each other's guts, and we stick them in the same room. Yeah, it's funny. We shuffle them around, and those who don't like each other, we stick them in the same room. We want to bring out the worst in them to bring out the best in them. It's like all of you, right? You're going to face circumstances over the course of your life. You're going to face circumstances which are going to cause you to make a choice. And sometimes the easy choice makes you feel good for the now, but there will be a consequence down the track. But it's through the trials and the tribulations that we face in life that determines and grows our character. The last 7 years for myself, personally, have been the hardest 7 years of my whole life. I feel like a plastic bag and just being stomped on. I didn't mean to start a rehab. The blooming thing started by accident. And it just started with 2 and 4, and then it just kept going. But I've been under so much pressure in the last 14 years. I have nearly 100 staff. But it's through those trials and tribulations of making right choices that line up with the L that has made me who I am today, and given me the ability and the wisdom and the knowledge and the grace and the discernment and the understanding to do what I do. And the joy for me is to walk in to my office and have this little 6-year-old girl, and that is one of my residents' kids, run up and give me a cuddle. I'm tattooed from head to foot, except for the part down. No, my bum's not tattooed, in case you're wondering. I'm thinking about doing that next so I don't glow in the dark, by the way. But to have these strangers' kids to run up and give you a cuddle, it's actually really special. And I see mums and dads, and I see mum and dad holding hands. I see them on a Saturday as a family, and I just cry. Man, families are special. You don't realise what you got until you haven't got it. And we take it for granted. It's a gift. It's a gift to wake up next to my wife after all that I've done to her. My sons are men of integrity. My sons are quality men. My daughter is a little princess. I've got 5 grandchildren. You know, but you've got to bring up your children in the way that they go. You've got to be the best you can be. And life's going to throw a lot of bad stuff at you. And a lot of bad circumstances. But the choices that you make when those bad circumstances, do they line up with the light or do they line up with the dark? And if they line up with the dark and they're going to fix your problem from now, I just encourage you not to make it. And sometimes you've got to suffer in order to grow. And that's what I've been doing, suffering for 7 years. I've got 140 men on my shoulders. I don't know, I'm on every TV station the last few days. I'm on Channel 10 again tonight, ABC this morning. I got a bit of a prickle in my hand because when I started Shalom, it didn't start with one, started with one house accidentally. Now I've got 15 houses, 100 staff, and they're taking me to court and spend 100, and it's just, I got a headache on my head. Probably one bald.
Well, you're clearly doing wonderful things for the community. How can we as medical students support Shalom House?
How you support Shalom House is actually when you go into, or you actually, I don't know what you do, make the grade and become the doctors and get the hat where you can actually fill out that prescription pill. The Don't be in a hurry to actually just fill out the prescriptions pool. Sadly, the policies and the procedures, the rules and the acts and the guidelines that we have in place in our country today, and we're actually elevating them above human lives. And as doctors in the medical professions, you're going to get a lot of people come before you. And when you write that script out, you can take them from an illegal substance and put them on a legal one. And often it's not the prescription that's going to help them. I mean, it's the communication, it's the talking, it's about unpacking their childhoods. A lot of people don't need medications, and how you can help me is be really careful about those prescription drugs you prescribe. You mean, be really careful, but sadly, you're in a bit of a pickle because the policies and the procedures, the rules, the acts, the guidelines, and the regulations that you actually follow, if you come before me and you display certain symptoms, I'm required by law to actually prescribe that drug to give you because of the symptoms you display. And if I don't prescribe you that drug and you walk out and you get hit by a car, what's going to happen to me? I'm going to get sued, aren't I? And so everybody's following the book, and we're elevating above human lives. Families matter. Now, I'm seeing lots of my men in my house who've been given a lot of medication, but they don't need the medication. A lot of them just don't need the medication. They just need to be loved. They need to unpack their childhood. They need to actually go where they've never gone before. They need to bring the skeletons out of the closet. A lot of you here, you've done things over your life you've never told anybody that you're ashamed of. You're too scared because of the consequences. But it's the truth that sets you free. Hold your head up high. Stare the world straight in the face. Tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Because truth always sets you free.
Peter, I think we'll take many of the messages you've told us about with us in our future consults with patients. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can we please give Peter a huge round of applause?
Thank you.